Hi there. My name's Jimmy Rogers. I'm a fourth-year PhD student at this time at Columbia University in the Department of Biomedical Informatics. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Connecticut, and then I went to University of Rochester for my undergrad, and then I worked in Boston for a few years before coming here to New York City to pursue my PhD. After my undergrad, I spent some time working with an epidemiology group. And so with that epidemiology group, we focused on assessing the safety and effectiveness of different medications. As part of this research, we used a lot of claims data. So claims data is used to document billing for different medical services in our healthcare environment. And so one of the things I became interested in was, why is the data represented this way? How is it being recorded? Who's recording it? I had a fairly high-level overview based on sort of the work from my research group, but I was interested in learning a little bit more. So when looking around, I came across this field called informatics. And so I was kind of like, oh, this seems pretty interesting. I found that it was pretty much a broad level perspective on how we can use different healthcare data and information systems to improve healthcare. So I decided to apply for a master's to learn a little bit more, and that's how I came across informatics and found it was a useful thing to learn about. So after I pursued a master's, I knew that I wanted to go for a PhD. What PhD though was still kind of, I was still trying to determine. I could go an epi path, which was related to my background, go a biostats path, and of course there's the informatics path. I ultimately went with the informatics path mainly because it was a nice, diverse selection of different research avenues that could be pursued. And Columbia really offered the most sort of assessment during my application process. So I had the choice to consider things like going for maybe like looking at clinical decision support systems, or maybe something with human-computer interaction, or maybe some kind of deep learning methods, or what I ended up landing on, which was clinical research informatics. And so with that diversity of research with Columbia, that's why I chose to go here. The lab that I'm in is in Dr. Chunhua Wang's lab. And so her focus is on clinical research informatics, which is the methods and strategies to apply informatics methodologies to improve clinical research. As someone that came from an epi background, that was very appealing because I was able to leverage quite a bit of my prior experience while also trying to integrate these new informatics methods that I would pick up from her lab. And so it was a nice fit for my background and the eventual research that I pursued. So the main research topic that I'm interested in is using routinely collected healthcare data, specifically electronic healthcare record data, to improve the conduct of clinical trials. So for those of you that aren't aware, a clinical trial is an interventional study in which we study a particular medication or procedure or what have you, and see whether or not it is beneficial or safe for the patient to use. The problem with these clinical trials is they're very difficult to conduct. They can take a long time. It's difficult to recruit patients for them. Sometimes the design can have some challenges. So my research is really interested in how can we use this routinely collected data to improve those aspects. So essentially the research question then is, how does this routinely collected healthcare data can help improve clinical trials? It's divided into three buckets. We're interested in recruitment, i.e. how can we use this electronic healthcare record data to find appropriate patients to enter trials. Second would be outcome ascertainment. How can we better capture the outcomes or endpoints, i.e. these aspects that we measure to see whether or not our intervention is working? How can we use routinely collected data to measure those outcomes? And finally, the third would be generalizability, meaning how can we ensure that once the trial is completed, we find appropriate patient subgroups or populations that would find the result of the trial meaningful. In terms of the novel aspect in driving this research, we're combining the electronic healthcare record data with trial enrollment data. So we have data on just individuals that are enrolled in various trials. And just having that little bit of information, if a patient is enrolled into a trial or not, and combining it with electronic healthcare record data can open up these possibilities of better pursuing those 3 aforementioned focuses that I mentioned. There's kind of 2 things that I can recommend if you're interested in informatics. I'm going to divide the recommendation based on sort of hard skills and then soft skills. Regarding hard skills, I'd recommend learning how to code. As long as you pick up just any programming language and try to just learn how to program and just understand kind of, what is data, how do you analyze data, how does it get stored, along that entire spectrum. That's a good start from a hard skill standpoint. And then the eventual programming language that you want to land on, you'll absolutely have time to pick up and learn from. From a soft skill standpoint, the thing I'd recommend is if you're someone that is interested in working with different stakeholders and learning about different perspectives, then informatics would be a good fit. So oftentimes you find that you'll be working with clinicians or computer scientists or epidemiologists or trialists or statisticians, all sorts of different folks from different fields. And so being able to understand their perspectives and then reapply it into whatever kind of research or whatever kind of method that you're trying to apply, if that's something that's appealing to you, then I definitely recommend looking into informatics further. In terms of career aspirations, I think ultimately the biggest thing I want to do is just make sure that whatever work I do helps the patient. There's a patient at the end of everything that we do in our research, and I want to make sure that it's able to, my work's able to benefit that patient. In terms of capacity, that could be anywhere from an industry perspective, maybe for a pharma company, or I could see it as a regulatory perspective, ensuring that whatever medications or interventions that are approved or that are being assessed are appropriately approved for the general public. And likewise, another potential avenue would be an academic medical center and working with clinicians to help ensure that they're giving the best treatment to the patients.